Have you heard the one where I was a ballerina? Every kid's dream, right? Well, I actually was a gymnast first, and I was highly competitive. I have a video on that if you want to watch. And I stopped gymnastics and hit puberty pretty much and continued to eat like as if I were a gymnast, like huge pizzas, packages of bacon. It was out of control. Um, but hitting that puberty, I became a woman. So, like, being a ballerina was really not in my body type, but I caught the fever, so there was no stopping me. How it began is in Catholic school, the Catholic school where I sued the priest. That school, I started to take dance class there. I think they had like dancing for, I don't know, the Catholic church. I don't know, but I started to take the classes. And I remember the teacher saying like, "Oh, well, you're 15. I think I was like 15 years old. You're too old to be a dancer. You can't possibly be a dancer." And that sealed it for me with my rebellion and with my, like just issues with authority. I was like, I'll show her. And that now became my mission. So I decided to find a dance studio within the Texas area. I have something that has been throughout my life a beautiful blessing that when I decide to do something and choose, I really feel like I get led to the highest quality of places. So I don't, I'm like, I didn't want to be at Twilight's Tap and Twirl. I wanted the best place. And I think I found a really great place. And so I started with adult classes there. And this place had a company, this place had different ways of performing. It was not competitive, it was very artistic. And so I felt like, okay, this is it, I'm gonna do it. I started in adult classes, and then through that, getting kicked out of the other school, I started a self progressive school, which allowed me to dance more. So, in turn, I kind of compounded my knowledge because I was able to go to school for just 3 hours and then dance the rest of the day. This allowed me to learn at an accelerated pace, and also having my gymnastics background, it did really influence my technique. But again, my body type did not lend itself to ballet. I had badonkadonk, like my hips are bigger. I, had legs that weren't used to being held high. So like adagio and slower things where I'm holding my leg up just didn't suit me. And it wasn't until I got the anatomy from Pilates that I realized what I was doing wrong. But I was loving it. And I knew nothing about ballet. And I remember as we did this, I decided to you know, start without doing the adult classes to add the full on classes. So I'm starting to get advanced into, I guess, it wasn't company classes yet, but the advanced classes. And that's where I met my friend. So this is my closest friend, my longest standing friend, Shannon. She's my bestie. And this is where we met. And we're still as tight today as we were back then. So in the adult class, I met a gentleman by the name of Rex. He started an adult class like I did, and we kind of went up the ranks together. And he was this buff football player looking guy. So, of course, they loved him. He was handsome, he was muscular, and he was a male. And that is the one thing you need in a ballet studio. So, as we started into these classes, Shannon and Rex and I became this tight knit friendship. Probably not the healthiest of friendships, but it became a friendship. And I remember I got close to Rex, I got close to Shannon, and I know that Shannon had feelings for Rex. And there was a time there, and I remember this, we would all watch TV until hours of the night, drinking stupid wine coolers, or I don't know. But I remember watching something and falling asleep and opening my eyes and then watching them hold hands. And that was the one moment that I tend to regret now. But I've said, Shannon, I'm going to pull away from my friendship with Rex because I know that you have feelings for him and there could be an opportunity for a relationship. So I pulled away and allowed them to see what this relationship would bring. I'll get to that later. This studio that we were at started to get pretty good. You know, we were getting gigs and nutcrackers and competitions. And the first nutcracker that I auditioned for that studio was I got Arabian. And it's a pretty lead role. I had no idea. I had no idea what the heck even the nutcracker was about. And so this was, I'm sure, frustrating to some of the girls that had been there for a long time. But I had a gymnastics background and Arabians like all like, ooh. And so that was kind of what we did is that I and Rex would do a pas de deux together. And that's, I think, how we got close. And the head of the studio, he was very fancy. And I think he did not have enough time in the spotlight. And I think that is what in turn fed some jealousy or fed some thoughts to where it allowed him to start rumors. So he began, the director, with help from a woman that was a mother of one of the head dancers. They started a rumor about Rex, Shannon, and I. And it was so shocking. Now looking back, we were kids. Rex was not. Rex was older. And I think that was part of why Shannon and I felt so special around him is that, you know, we were young and he was the lead dancer and it felt like we were important. Well, being kicked out of this school, basically, well, we chose to leave because these rumors were atrocious and we couldn't, like, even show our faces there. So parents knew, other kids knew. It's just, it was atrocious. So we got out of there. I know that Shannon and Rex went dancing further into like Dallas. I went in with a Russian teacher, and that's where I met Janelle, my other girlfriend. But that Russian teacher, oh my gosh, there were rumors about her now that I know. She was tough. And it would be like, oh, she puts like flames underneath your legs to get your legs higher. And that wasn't altogether true, but she was tough. And I remember she always used to poke my belly because of the endometriosis. It would be like this belly sometimes. And she'd be like, oh, you look like a 2-year-old with that belly. Oh, look at that belly. And so, again, my body was just not fitting in. And oh, the, 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 the wardrobe that we had to wear, our attire had to be for the advanced and the Russian was white. So I had to wear pink tights and a white leotard. And for someone who had problems with endometriosis, I'll tell you, it was a monthly horror show. It was horrible. And it was just like, who puts teenagers in white? It was so depressing. So one of the things my mom was always worried about is like, will I have an eating disorder? That was pretty much across the board something that happened with dancers because all you're doing is you're looking at yourself in the mirror constantly and comparing yourself to everybody else. And you do form this body dysmorphia. I, for some reason, never clinged on to an eating disorder. I did have at times a disordered eating. And I think like orthorexia, where I was really concerned about, like back in the day, like, oh, there's too much fat in this. And so like I got it all wrong. I had it all backwards. I had no idea what the heck health food was. And there was a short period of time, and I remember I had a close friend at school watching this happen. And I remember there was a wrestling match. She literally was shoving potato chips in my mouth, and she pinned me down. And I was spitting them out because I was like, I can't have potato chips. Oh, the fat, the fat, the fat. And when she had me pinned down and I'm spitting potato chips at her face, I realized maybe I have a bit of a problem. And that was the last of that for me. I was very, very lucky. I feel like I have body dysmorphia the other direction because I'm like, ooh, girl, I look good. And like I get on the scales at the doctor's or something and I'm like, 30 pounds? How is that possible? I look the same. Stretchy pants. That's the problem. Can't do stretchy pants. So I'm very, very lucky and very, very blessed to not have had to go through the eating disorder phase. I can relate in the fact that I had the disordered eating. So when I have dancers come to me, or I've had in the past people come to me with eating disorders, I do recognize that. I do understand that. And I witnessed it. I witnessed it with other dancers. But I feel that that is something that can torture you through your whole life. And it is something, though, that can be healed. So what happened after we dispersed? Shannon and I got closer than ever. And she moved in with Rex. They became a relationship. At least she said it was a relationship. He denied it. He denied it. He denied it. And so where my guilt comes in is that at that moment when they were holding hands in the dark night, I should have said, he's not the right guy for you. He's not right. Because after years of their relationship, he was then found guilty for trying to have relations with an underage girl, not Shannon, another girl within the dance company. And he actually went to prison for that. And this is where forgiveness becomes part of the body. And unforgiveness becomes part of the body. And after that, watching Shannon go through that process of mourning that relationship, or mourning what her instincts told her, mourning everything that had to do with that broken relationship, it housed in her body, and I watched it. And it's sad to me that there was a pivotal point where I could have said something and I didn't. And she not ever brought that up. And she would never, ever, ever say that I had anything to do with this. But as a friend, we always question, should we say something? You know, oh, that person's marrying the wrong person. Should we say something? Well, it'll probably break up the friendship. That's what we think. Oh, well, it'll probably break up the friendship. And I think if I would have come to Shannon in the beginning and said something, it would not have broken up the friendship. And that is the friendship that you want. Because I do know a lot of people to this very day, like talking and thinking about like the relationship that somebody close to them is going into. And I think we have the right to say something. And it's got to be out of love and it's got to be out of hope. But for some reason, that was not the way our journey went. And I know this was about ballet, but it ends up being about friendship. And when we look back at those times, we're not thinking about like how high our freaking leg was. We don't think about like how our feet looked in our shoes and the blisters that we got. We're thinking about the adventures that we had, the relationship that we formed, and how we've gone through this existence together. And we're on the other side of it. And hopefully, it gives us room to heal, and hopefully, it gives us room to get that unforgiveness out of our bodies, because nobody deserves what Shannon went through. And I hope she realizes that. I hope she's watching this and she's realizing that, because I love her.